Yes, we're back. We're back. I've had to have a break, everyone. I've had to have a break. It was quite a strenuous season. Obviously, West Ham did finish in the Europa League places, but it doesn't matter anymore. You know why? Because the Euros are just around the corner. And this video is all about who me and Dan want in that starting 11. Who is the best English 11 that Gareth Southgate can put out? Now, I know Southgate struggles a little bit tactically. Anyone that saw the game last night will realise that. But me and Dan are just going on personnel and how we think they're going to gel in the side. But firstly and foremost, Dan, how are you feeling, mate? And also, how are you feeling about the Euros? It's come around super quick. You excited to see a little bit more football? It's been non-stop football for about a year now.
In it, yeah, I'm already missing it, mate. I'm not as optimistic, to be honest, from watching the game last night as I was. I thought, we'd do really well. But watching it, I know it's only a testimonial-friendly game, but the performance wasn't great, was it? Austria bossed us a bit. But no, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, we've got another friendly on Sunday, haven't we? Is it Russia? I can't remember.
Romania. Close.
Romania, that's it, yeah. That's it. But no, I'm looking forward to it, mate, because, you know, my life without football ain't really worth living. So,
that's a bit sad.
Yeah, get stuck into it. Only joke.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, that game last night, you were saying to me it's just a friendly, but it did irk me a little bit just in terms of how we were attacking Austria. And you saw Austria playing that, particularly in that second half, last 30. They seem to have a plan, the switch passes, the width, getting headers. You know, there seemed to be a bit of a plan, and I just felt like Southgate was a little bit reliant on individuality. And obviously, luckily, players like Jack Grealish and even Lingard, you know, they performed, they turned up. But it does worry me a little bit that it doesn't feel that there's any kind of set way of playing going into a tournament.
It was just a bit negative, wasn't it, last night? Austria set up basically to annoy us, didn't they? I think the commentators said that, was it Alaba in a pre-match interview said that they reckon they can annoy us, or was it Sabitzer? I think it was Sabitzer. And they did annoy us, to be honest. They were fouling us all over the shop. Saka must have drawn about 7 fouls.
Grealish as well. You know, it was tough, wasn't it, at times? Lingard lost the ball a fair few times. Declan didn't have his best game, but the pressing of Austria, we struggled to deal with it a little bit. And I know people will say, look, the majority of that team don't play in the Euros or don't start in the Euros at least, which is a fair point. But it was just in that attacking sense. You know, we saw Kane dropping deep at times and no one getting in beyond and no willingness to stretch the play or no width. And I was thinking, I think for me, Southgate said to Kane, just do what you do for Spurs and we'll try and figure something out.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily work. It's a very niche way that Harry Kane drops into the 10 and Son goes in behind. So that does worry me a little bit, but we did get into gear. First 20, obviously, Grealish in the second half and Lingard and the way that we turned. We got talent, mate, but it's just about getting the most out of it.
That's it. You know, that's what you think about Southgate. Will he get the best out of the likes of Foden, Martin, Grealish? Grealish from, you know, early signs was very decent last night, wasn't he? Had a key part to play in the goal. Bellingham, for me, was one of our better players. Saka was obviously the best player. Because he was positive going forward, wasn't he? He glides with the ball, and he created a lot of things as well. But it's mainly, you know, is Southgate too negative? Can he get the best out of these players? Because there's a lot of talent there. There's endless talent. We're a bit attack heavy, I think. I think we'll go into it in a bit, but I think defence is our issue, especially at centre back.
I don't think we're as good defensively as he's banking on, and you see that in that second half where I know Mings won't start, and I also know Cody won't start, and he does struggle aerially anyway. But even when we switched to a back three, there was no real organisation. I do wonder whether we are, and I can't believe I'm saying this, massively reliant on Harry Maguire to start, because as much as Harry Maguire has his faults, he is slightly slow. He is an aerial presence, and we do look slightly more comfortable. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Highline and Mbappe, France is all going to go wrong.
Yeah, I am.
And it may well, but what worries me more, Dan, is even when we're sitting back, teams can still create and we're not dealing with it. And that would be my worry. If we bank on being really good defensively and we're not at the races or we haven't got the right personnel, then it all goes to pot as well. So it's almost like, I think England fans are in two minds. Do we go all out attack, high press, use our attacking midfielders, or do we sit back? I'm not sure we're good enough defensively to do the second.
No, exactly. And like a comment says there, Konza Mings is exact. The only reason our Tyrone Mings is in there because he's left-footed. That's why. And
he'll play in the back three, wouldn't he? He's not going to play in the back four, surely.
No, but the indication was there, mate, early on when he, was it Kalajic or something? He elbowed him in a penalty area. That would have been a straight pen, Son Waller in the Euros if VAR was there. It would have been a red as well. So I just don't know what I just don't get the geezer. I don't get his defensive method or what he's even thinking. So I would have put Konza in there, but obviously you've got a dilemma of Trent's now confirmed injured. He's out of it. He's ruled out due to the thigh injury. So who do you then bring in? Do you bring in a centre back? Do you bring in Jesse? I think we're a bit too attack heavy anyway. So I'd bring in a centre back, especially if Maguire's not going to be fully there. You know.
That's the thing. If Maguire doesn't play, it is a back three. And I think you see in the selection and the amount of... I personally think the right-back choices are excessive. You know, I've tried to get my head around it. The only thing I can see is that he's not fully confident that Maguire plays, and therefore he needs to go to a back three, and therefore he needs choices. But should we get into it, Dan? Let's talk about the team. Right, first and foremost, goalkeeping decision. Who have you gone for?
Jordan Pickford. It was a pretty easy decision for me, just because... His distribution is by far the best. His shot stopping isn't great sometimes, but you've seen last night he'll be pivotal when teams high press against us. When they enforce that high press, he's very comfortable on the ball, and he's not a bad keeper either. And he's a bit of a leader. I think Henderson's got a bit of a mistake in him. Johnson's the best shot stopper for me, but distributional wise, I think Pickford's in there.
Yeah, I've got to agree, mate. To be honest, I think I was kind of all season I've been very much. You know, Dean Henderson has to play, because I think that overall going forward, he will be the better goalkeeper. I think he's probably more well-rounded. I do think he's got distribution, to be fair to him, maybe not to the level of Pickford. And I do think he can be a great shot stopper, but I've seen mistakes with him at Manchester United. And also the other thing as well is Pickford has actually improved second half of this season. He's been good. They brought Olsen in. He's improved. His decision-making better. I think he's always been a decent shot stopper. It's always been whether he can command his box and deal with the deliveries. He had one moment last night where I panicked, where he's punched it, where he possibly shouldn't have punched it, or punched it at least back into Austria's centre forward. Yeah. And that is my only worry with Pickford. But he very rarely makes a mistake, touch wood, at international level. And I think that's, for me, especially with the experience that he's got and he's played in tournaments before, that's why he gets my pick.
That's it for me. Yeah, he's got experience of it. He knows the game, doesn't he? He knows what it means. But I think that's probably the pecking order. Pickford, Henderson's second choice, Johnson's third. I do understand the argument on Henderson. Yes, he's a very good goalkeeper. He's just a bit... He's too young yet for me. I don't think you can start him in a massive competition like that. Maybe, it is a bit harsh, but for me, I'd rather someone with Pickford who's got experience, knows what the tournament's about. And yeah, I don't know. I just think Pickford's got a bit more aggression about him as well when he's contested for, say, aerial balls in the air, or I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's tough. The thing is, Pickford is a bit of a scapegoat because he has those absolute clangers. And to be fair to everybody, he did have a lot of clangers early doors. And the only thing I think of is I haven't seen him put a foot wrong at international level. Like you touched on, he's got the experience.
Right. No.
But it actually goes against Henderson a little bit that he hasn't played a whole season, and I wonder whether, had we seen him for a Sheffield United or another side for a whole season, whether we would feel slightly differently about it or be willing to take that risk. But I think going into a tournament, you do need experience. I'm sure we'll see it from the selections we've made. I'm just going to answer this question because I'm conscious that Dennis will probably be in and around here, and we will get to...
I've seen it, yeah. I was going to touch on it.
Go on, Dan. You've got the floor if you've seen it.
Yeah, I don't rate him as much as other people do. That might be an unpopular opinion. I think he's a tidy player. He came on last night. He did the basics well. He's good at set pieces, as we know. But for me, I'd rather have more of an industrious midfielder in there, a complete midfielder. We've got players like, Saka, Mount, Foden, Grealish, who have all got set pieces in the locker. So for me, it's fair that he does miss out. He's been good this season, but unless he produces more eye-catching performances for Southampton, I'm not sure, he gets a pick. I'm not sure he's in there.
I think it's slightly harsh. I think he's done well. He's been consistent for Southampton, let's say that. I think people are over possibly doing the set piece idea, because if someone like Ward-Prowse is in the squad, let's be honest, he isn't going to play regularly. He will come on for 10, 20 minutes, and he is purely just an option. He's got a bit of an engine on him. He's not bad technically. You've got to look at England. More than likely, particularly in those defensive midfield number 8 positions, there's only going to be 2. And if you've already got Calvin, Henderson, Bellingham,
exactly, is he better than them?
Another one. Yeah, well, I'm going to go completely against what I said, though. And again, I would have liked to have seen Lingard get called up, because I think he just gives us... It's hard, isn't it? Because we've got so many attacking midfielders. But I think Lingard is a different option, possibly. And you can get him beyond at times.
Yes, yeah.
So I know people won't agree with me, and the balance of the squad will be slightly off. But I think Lingard in form, what he can offer, the pressing off the ball, which I think England actually lost in that second half. It became very comfortable for Austria to play in our own final third. So for me, I would like to see Jesse Lingard. I know that wasn't quite the question, Dennis, but if you're going to pick, and by the looks of it, you said Godfrey to me earlier, mate. You said you'd have him in the squad.
Yeah, no, I would. He made an awful mistake last night, didn't he? That nearly resulted in that.
He was panicking.
He did.
It's chalk and cheese, because if you'd said to me that Ben Godfrey would be making the mistakes and Ben White would be looking the more composed, I probably would have said that's not going to happen. But actually, I thought Ben White looked okay and Godfrey was a little bit sketchy. But he's a great centre-back. And you are right. Yeah. As an option in a back three, I'd have him, definitely.
Then again, I would not be surprised if James Ward-Prowse was included because of Trent. Because, he does offer something different. But for me, I need to see more noticeable performances. He needs to stand out a bit more. I know he's more of a team player and he's got an engine on him, but I don't see... He's nowhere near as good as Rice, Bellingham and Henderson. Nowhere near. So Phillips Phillips as well. Sorry, he's not better than him either. So if he's behind, if he's last in that pecking order, he's not going to get a lot of game time, and therefore he could take someone like Jesse Lingard. So I like James Ward-Prowse. He seems like a decent player when I've watched him, but I don't think he's good enough for this tournament.
Yeah, a bit of a stretch too far. I still think it's harsh on him. I do think for a player to play 38 games twice, and I do think he plays in a high press side. But I looked at England last night, Dan, and there was no real strategy to the way that we were pressing Austria. So maybe he's a bit lost on this team in terms of his actual contribution. Left backs. We've got two very good left backs, as we have really with our right back positions. Who have you gone for, Dan?
Based on this season, I've gone for Luke Shaw. He's barely put a foot wrong. Probably he's been his best season, because I know he was dipping in and out, wasn't he? He had that horrible injury, but he's really come in, made it his own. The competition of Alex Telles has really helped him, I think, just to produce consistent performances, and he's been their best player this season for me, bar maybe Fernandes and Cavani. He's been superb, and in that team, he's a very good defender. He's very good going forward. So I know Chilwell's obviously, him and Chilwell are very similar, but for me, he edges it just, but it's a close one.
I have to agree. I think Luke Shaw has been the more consistent over this season. You're right. You're bang on with the Alex Telles thing, because I think Alex Telles coming in was to put pressure on him for him to be more consistent. And if anyone remembers last season, he would drop really poor performances, and it never really felt like we saw the Luke Shaw that had got that move to Manchester United. This season going forward, he's one of the highest in that Manchester United side for chance creation. He's got a brilliant relationship down that left with someone like a Marcus Rashford that we may see. Not too sure, but that could be something that he calls upon. And I think 1v1 defending is very, very solid. But Chilwell is slightly unlucky. I think Chilwell really turned up in that Champions League final. And he, for me, may be a better option, possibly, if we go wing-backs. Because I think he's probably more adapted to playing in that way. Whereas I feel like Luke Shaw can be a conventional left-back in a back four, but get forward and contribute. But for me, I think tough call, but Luke Shaw edges it.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think you could even play Luke Shaw left centre-back, couldn't you? And Chilwell left wing-back. There's plenty of options there. Mm-hmm. But he, like you said, Chilwell stepped up. Champions League final, I thought he was superb. But for me, it's Luke Shaw just because he's got that fire in his belly. As soon as Telles came in, different player, showed his potential. And he's a big player for us in this competition, I think.
Yeah, and he's obviously got fantastic quality in terms of delivery. I think you can't really look against Ben Chilwell either. He has got good delivery, particularly in that early half of the season, didn't he, with Frank Lampard, where his role was to press high and to get on. And from what I gleaned of England last night, they do push our fullbacks on. So, I mean, there is an opportunity for Luke Shaw to show a little bit of that quality in the final third. I agree with you, by the way. If I didn't say it, for me, it is Luke Shaw that edges it. So we've got John Pickford in goal, Luke Shaw at left back. Yeah, Dan, I don't really want to spend too much time on this because I think there are better things to be talking about. But centre-backs, who have we gone for? I can guarantee who you've gone for, but just spell it out for everyone.
Yes, so John Stones and Harry Maguire are my two centre-backs. Not a lot of choice, to be honest. Connor Cody was good last night, but he's not good in the back four. And, my thoughts on Tyrone Mings already. Listen, Maguire's, both of them are prone to mistakes. Maguire is a good defender. So is John Stones. John Stones has improved a lot this season. But the only thing I'm concerned about, mate, on Maguire's side is his pace. And if he gets a quick and nippy little forward in and around him to pick his pockets, he'll struggle big time.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why we're playing with a double pivot, Dan. Even whether it's a 3-4-3 or whether it's a 4-2-3-1, because I think Southgate knows. That does worry me as well. And I'm not leaving John Stones out of that. I think he had a really good first half of the season, but again, I'll refer back to the Champions League final. I thought Havertz and the movement off the front three were causing him all kinds of problems. And I think who we play at right back has to be slightly conservative to protect John Stones as well. Because you do worry that if they go too far forward and we play like we've touched on against the France and Mbappe, maybe a Gnabry against Germany, that Stones will struggle. And I think that dip in form, that possible dip in confidence is a slight concern coming into the tournament. And there's no guarantees that Harry Maguire next to him is fit because he's had his injury problems.
Yeah. No, this centre-back thing is a massive issue, mate. Massive. I think it will determine how far we go in the competition. Because if you look at France, they've got Varane, players like that, world class. Is Harry Maguire world class? Probably not. He's not far off. I don't know. He's a very good defender. He's very good aerially, but as soon as you get a little turn of pace in and around him, even John Stones as well, because you've seen Havertz's movement, a little intelligent forward, someone like Benzema.
I think if anyone worth their salt that's watched Manchester United this season, particularly with Maguire and that back four, for me, it feels like there is a little bit of a lack of organisation. You know, someone will go and press and someone will sit and there are spaces that open up. And I'm not digging out John Stones because, in fact, I gave him loads of praise when he started to turn up for Manchester City and he showed what a quality player he is. And he's a fantastic football player. It's just defensively at times, the decisions that he makes could cost us. And I wonder whether Southgate is thinking, I'm going to play in a low block. I'm going to let teams come onto us and we can counter on teams. Because I do worry that if you play a high line with both of those two, there's a concern there against the top teams.
And you've got to remember as well, John Stones, was it the last England friendly or something? He gave it away, didn't he? Had an absolute howler. And that's what, if you get high pressed against us, that's what's going to happen. I know all players make mistakes, but especially them two. You've seen it with John Stones a few times this season. Harry Maguire has made a few mistakes because he's not had a good centre-back next to him. He's mainly done it on his own. Victor Lindelof isn't good enough, neither is Eric Bailly. So in that case, he's done very well.
It's frustrating, isn't it, Dan? Because we've got great talent in some areas, and centre-backs, the one area possibly other than defensive midfield, which I arguably think is quite decent anyway, that we look at and we're not confident in. And we've got world-class talents in certain pockets, and then you look at your centre-backs, particularly as a partnership.
Yeah.
And and this would be the first tournament if Southgate does play a back four, by the way, that those two have played in a back two, not a back three. Yeah. That worries me as well because we haven't. Whenever we've seen it, Stones has made a mistake or Maguire's looked slightly off the pace. So there are concerns going into a tournament whether these two can deal with it, and it will affect the way England play.
I've said to you before as well, mate. Why overlook Tomori and Konsa? Tomori's been fantastic this season. I know second half. Konsa has been consistent every game. So why are you overlooking them? I don't understand it. Konsa's probably a better defender than Mings and Stones. So
yeah, I think it's tough, isn't it? It's just for me, it's to do with partnerships and certain partnerships gel. And I think Stones with Diaz, largely speaking, is a good partnership, and you can facilitate for that. But it's just with those two. That relationship, I'm not sure it's there. And then you look at the backup options. For me, Cody and Mings, it's not good enough. And I don't want to dig out Connor Cody because I know he probably brings a bit of leadership and he's not bad in a back three. But if we're perfectly honest, he can't get anywhere near that starting 11 in a back four. It will not work. For me, he's slower than Maguire. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that. And Mings has got an error in him. He's not as composed as Konsa.
Oh, you seen last night, yeah.
And exactly. So, let's all worry about it.
You know what? Last thing on the centre-backs, mate, because we'll talk about it for ages because it is an issue. I'd be tempted to do if Jordan Henderson's fit in the next few games, I'd put Declan Rice back there.
I just said to you now, I was like, maybe put Declan back there.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you because obviously he grew up playing there, didn't he? That was his main position before he was converted to a centre defensive midfielder. So if you play him there, maybe next to, I'd say Harry Maguire, someone who, because Rice reads the game very well. I'm not sure John Stones reads the game that well sometimes. That's what can let him down. So if you have Rice there, who's technically sound, reads the game well, I would be tempted to do that against the more attacking teams like France, Germany, more high-profile teams, and against the lesser teams like Turkey. Even though Turkey are underdogs, that's an example. You can get away with Maguire and Stones, but against the bigger teams, for me, I'd be tempted to drop Rice back there.
The only concern I would have is flitting between defensive midfielder and centre-back going into a tournament. It would, for me, I don't think he'll do it. And I'm not sure even I would do it. Although I think if someone like Declan Rice had multiple games at centre-back, because he has played there before, he would acclimatise naturally. But I would just stick him in defensive midfield. I think you've got to ask a lot of those two defensive midfielders. But what concerns me slightly is they're not playing, and we'll get onto it in a minute, they're not playing as a conventional holding two. One will sit in Declan Rice, and one will play as a number 8, whether it's Bellingham, Phillips or Henderson. So I do think that there's a lack of protection there. I actually think there's a lot of pressure on Declan Rice to protect those two and come into a back three. And I think he'll do it as well.
I get your point, but if Maguire's injured, like they're concerned about, are Cody and Mings any better than Rice would be at centre-back?
He'll go back three if Maguire's out.
Well, put Reece James there. There'd be an argument for Reece James going back there, wouldn't there?
If you're saying back four and Maguire is out, I'd maybe look at it. Because you have to look at the options. The problem is we're trying not to get too much into Southgate's thinking, because he does believe Mings and Cody are perfectly capable. But the other options outside of that are Reece James or Walker playing centre-backs, which is a lot to ask in a back two when they're used to playing as either wing-backs or as conventional full-back or in the back three. So Declan, probably out of those, would be the better option. But I wonder whether we'll see that. I wonder whether we'll see that if there are problems out there. And for the big game.
Or you could put Kyle Walker there, couldn't you? You put Kyle Walker right centre-back.
He worries me as well because of his positioning. He gets away with a lot because of his pace, 100%.
Yeah, he can recover with his pace, though, can't he? Mainly. But yeah, defensively, Reece James is a better player.
Speaking of right-backs, let's get onto the right-back situation. Who have you gone for?
Just Kyle Walker for me.
Right.
Because he's been very good this season. The season before, he wasn't so good. When Liverpool won the title, obviously, it was a very close call between him and Reece James, because Reece James in the Champions League was fantastic. And he's so good all round. He's a better player. But Walker, in terms of, like we alluded to before, Maguire's pace, Walker is quicker and he can recover more. So if you've got a quick player, Walker will most likely save Maguire in that aspect. That's why I've gone for him. And I believe he's better going forward as well. But Reece James is a quality player, and in a few years, he's our starting right back.
I've gone Reece James as my right back. So we're going to have to battle it out on this one.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I was on the Trent bandwagon, to be honest. I did a video yesterday just before the game.
You see James crossed out.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. You know what? I did a video yesterday, and I said I wanted Trent to start and why he should start at the Euros. And unfortunately, he got injured and it threw it straight out. But I did say that Reece James, for me, is the most well-rounded right back that we've got. And I just feel that he is young, yes, but I think defensively one-on-one is absolutely outstanding. I think his delivery going forward is superb. I think the positions that he picks up, the fact that he can play right wing back and switch between the two in the game. I know people think that just because you play right back or left back that you can easily go to a wing back system. I don't think it's that easy. I've seen Trent struggle at wing back and I've seen Reece James really excel. So for me, I would like Reece James in there because I do think he gives the protection to the centre backs. Even so, I think again, like I touched on defensively, I think he's pretty much spot on. Physical as well. And I know Kyle Walker is explosive in his recovery pace, but I just feel that positionally, James is better. And I think in high-risk games, with games where you're playing a higher line, you do want someone like Reece James that reads the situation well. And I'm not convinced Walker does. I know the argument for experience, but how would you counter that if you want Walker in so badly? Give me a scenario. It's tough because you actually like Reece James, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
I do. Yeah, no, I do. I think Reece James is superb. It is so tough. I'd argue with both of them, to be honest. I'd put both of them in there if I could.
What's your name? Southgate?
Play 4 right backs. I thought Trippier was good last night, by the way, as well. I thought he was decent. So that's another headache. But Walker's positioning is off, and he gives the ball away sometimes. He's not the best on the ball in certain areas, but it's purely his pace that saves him all the time and that I feel comfortable with. Who do I feel more comfortable with in a defensive point of view? Probably Reece James. So I'll probably counteracting myself here.
That's right, man.
But Walker's purely in there because of his pace for me. It's very tough. And even Trippier gets a shout because of last night, but he can play left back as well. So there's so many headaches. But I just think Kyle Walker's got better delivery on him as well. And he'll...
Not for me. What... Is it because of he plays that lovely where he sort of slices through the ball and he locks it?
Yeah. Did you see that ball in the Champo final?
Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, no, I rate it. I think Reece James is... some of his deliveries are class. We don't really see him enough for Chelsea. I think when under Lampard, where he was getting the fullbacks right to the byline, I think we were seeing that more. And I think had he played a more conventional right back role, we might be sitting here saying maybe his delivery's better, but I am going to give you Kyle Walker because I do think in terms of a balance of the side and having a bit of recovery pace, and with the fact that John Stones will be on that right-hand side and Maguire on the left, I do think Walker is the better option for a more balanced team. So, well done, Dan. 1-0. Right, let's get on to the defensive midfielders. Now, we've gone 4-2-3-1. There's one guy in here. We'll give him a little bit of airtime because this is a West Ham channel. It was Declan Rice.
Of course it is.
Proud of him. His first international tournament. Didn't have the best game yesterday. Maybe it's fatigue. Maybe obviously a long season or even the intensity that Austria played. But Dan, how do you think this is a coming of age tournament for Declan Rice? You feel that if he turns up and shows what he does week in, week out for West Ham, that all of a sudden he's not overrated anymore?
Yeah, definitely. I think people are seeing the vision slowly, aren't they?
Takes time. We'll have patience. We understand.
Exactly. Yeah, we know ball, mate. This time last year, people were saying, "I don't get the hype. Calvin Phillips, he's better. He's overrated." But now people are appreciating what he does in terms of his recoveries, his all-round play, doing the dirty side of the game as well, which is people don't really see or appreciate sometimes. And I just feel like this is, like you said, a coming of age tournament for him where he can really express himself against some of Europe's best players and really make a name for himself, which I don't know if he's good or bad for West Ham. Probably bad, but I'm probably good as well because it raises the price tag. But I definitely think he's one of the first names on that team sheet, not just being West Ham biased, but what he offers defensively and offensively as well. He's improving in that aspect of his game. So it's a chance for him to show what he can do and properly cement his place in that team for not just this Euros, but for many years to come as well.
Yeah, I think Southgate was talking about him as a possible future captain, which we can see he's West Ham captain currently. I think this season he's improved. I think we've seen his passing ranges improved, his positivity in terms of his passing choices, trying to play through the lines a little bit more. He has become more confident on the ball and driving forward. Unfortunately for us, I don't think we're going to see him in that almost number 8 role that he sometimes occupies for West Ham, where he does go and he drives through the midfield. I think Southgate's got it in his head that he needs Declan for the protection of the back.
Yeah, he'll be limited there.
It will be either Bellingham or Phillips or Henderson that will be the number 8 to go and carry the ball, which I think is a little bit a miss for someone like a Declan Rice, because I do feel that he can play that role. And I always go back to that game we played against Belgium where I thought he was superb. Him and Calvin Phillips, and Calvin sitting deeper in his natural position, and Declan now playing the position that he has for West Ham. But I think it's a big, big tournament for him. And one thing I will say about Declan Rice is he does seem to be acclimatising to the international stage a little bit more. I know he didn't have a great game last night, but we're seeing improvements and we're seeing him taking the mantle, and we're seeing a lot of other fans giving him the credit that he deserves. And I'd love to see him against the German midfielder or French midfielder. I think that's a real challenge, Dan, isn't it? Imagine him versus Pogba
him against Kimmich
Kante.
or something.
Kimmich, of course. That's a real test. And if he shows up and there's a lot of ball recoveries and decent pass accuracy in there, unfortunately, a lot of European teams will start to look at him.
Yeah, we know he's got the capabilities to go right to the very top, not just because we're West Ham fans, but I think other football fans as well are appreciating what he can do, his potential as well, because he's nowhere near the polished article. He's nowhere near finished in that sense, and he's got a lot more to offer to his game. Last night he wasn't the best, but he's not 110% fit. So even the standards, mate, that he sets himself week in, week out, and he was probably fairly decent last night as well, but we didn't think he had the best game. It just speaks volumes as to how good he can become and how good he already is. So I think he'll be vital, like you said, for the protection of the centre backs as well, but also the fluidity going forward with maybe Bellingham or Henderson in front of him, initiating counter-attacks like we saw last night. So, fingers crossed he pockets Pogba and Kante, and people sing his praises. Yeah,
it's a tough ask. I think a lot of it has to do with who he's partnered with. Now, I haven't put Calvin as the other option because I don't think either me or you have selected him.
No,
I've been a fan of a Calvin Declan Rice pivot. I just don't trust Southgate in terms of how he uses it. But you have gone with this man, and I thought he was really impressive last night. I think he's been impressive, to be honest, this season for Dortmund. The fact that he's 17 years of age is frightening. It's really, really frightening because I think the level that this guy can go to and the level that he's already at is absolutely obscene. So explain to me why you'd like Jude Bellingham to start alongside Declan Rice.
It was tough because obviously Hendo offers leadership qualities, doesn't he? In the World Cup, I thought he was one of our best players. He's a good advocate for those around him. But Jude Bellingham was superb last night. I was really impressed with him. I know it was a second-rate game, but he was key in the goal in terms of his recovery. Sorry, his athleticism as well is frightening. What he can offer in terms of, like you said, not just only knowing what he's going to do with the ball straight away in terms of whether it's 1-2s or switching it or whatever, but his recoveries as well, his ability to trap back, make tackles, I think is one of the best I've seen. But even for a 17-year-old, at 17, I could barely cook, mate, and he's
couldn't even tie his shoelaces.
Top of the game. No, I didn't even know how to put my trousers on. But he's top drawer. He's frighteningly good. And I know it's tough with leaving Hendo out, but the fact that he's 17 and you forget how mature he plays for his age, and even Southgate alluding to how well he does in training, just shows what a player he is. So I think it's a big tournament for him in terms of expressing himself, but also it could be a groundbreaking tournament for him as well, because I think he's frightening.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think he's absolutely tremendous. And having watched him last night, because I've seen him in spells. I obviously saw him against Manchester City in the Champions League, and you see him last night. He is a proper number 8, but a really technically gifted number 8. And what I liked about him, like I said to you before we went on, the 1-2s, the wanting to play the ball through the lines, willingness to carry it, but also willingness to link up play. And people probably underrate that a little bit in terms of trying to create things. But Bellingham also has the stature, the physicality defensively. He makes the challenge as well for England's goal last night. That goes under the radar. That's normally a challenge that Declan Rice makes. The fact that Bellingham's making it in a bit more of an advanced role. I was going to switch last minute and go back to Hendo for experience, but I just, this Henderson-Declan Rice partnership, I don't think it works.
They're too similar.
For me, and the reason why, even to a degree that I feel that Declan Rice and Calvin work better, is because they understand the roles that they want to play. And on the pitch, you see and I think Calvin is a fantastic number 6. I really, really do. He has got better passing range than Declan, but it allowed Declan to get forward. When you've got Henderson and Rice, Hendo wants to pick the ball up because he's allowed to by Klopp. At times at Liverpool, he can play a 6, he can play an 8, but he's not playing the 8 that he needs to if Declan's sitting, and it becomes too convoluted, whereas Bellingham is really happy just to carry the ball and go. And defensively, maybe positionally, I'd say he needs to work on it. He's a number 8. He's a natural number 8. He's not a defensive midfielder. So I'm going to have to go and curtail what I said, and we're going to have Jude in there. Hey, Jude. Jude and Declan Rice possibly is a starting partnership for the next few years. They're both really young. They're both super talented. And in their positions, Bellingham could be world class. Genuinely could be world class in about a year's time.
Probably is now. I agree. I think he's close already. To be honest, I just think, like you said, mate, them two complement each other more than Henderson and Rice would. Because I look at Rice. I can vision this, that Rice will sit in the big games. It will be limited to that role, just protecting the back four. Bellingham has the legs to get around. Say when we're playing with Kante and Pogba or Kimmich and I don't know, whoever else is in the German team.
Kroos or Goretzka.
Kroos,
like that.
Yeah, Goretzka. You need Bellingham to run around. I don't think Henderson's got that in his locker, because how old is he now? 31, 30. He's a great leader. Well. Yeah, but I'd rather him come off the bench, mate. And if Bellingham's run himself into the ground, bring him off and bring Hendo on, who's got that leadership. But scrap that. I think we've got enough leaders in that team with Harry Kane, even Declan Rice, Jordan Pickford, Harry Maguire, where we need quality and legs as well. So that's why I picked Bellingham. It's
a little bit harsh on Jordan, I guess, because he hasn't played a full season, or he's been in and out.
Well. Into it,
and it'll take him a while. I think actually, formatively speaking, I do think this Declan Rice Bellingham partnership, it will take time to acclimatise and for them to get used to each other. And it did feel like that a little bit at times last night, where Bellingham is so keen to go and pick up the ball that Declan doesn't know whether he presses or whether he sits slightly deeper. And I think maybe in a bigger game where Declan's role is more defined, and we have seen it in the World Cup qualifiers where he is literally sitting between the two centre-backs, that Bellingham is the guy that you want to get on the ball and try and get the ball forward and get it to your Grealishes and your Mounts and your Fodens. Because for me, Henderson, whilst he has got an engine on him, it more uses his passing range. He's not really...
he's not that physical, is he? Yeah.
He's not brilliant at carrying the ball. He's not going to go and beat a player. Whereas Bellingham's really, obviously talented, keeps the ball well, stature, physically, and it will improve. And I think, given time, them two together could be absolutely top draw. So you can take. You've won tonight. You've won on the 2 counts because I think me and you are super similar. I mean, we'll just wax lyrical about some of these players next because the attacking midfield.
Oh.
4-2-3-1. Just to remind you all, in case you haven't realised already.
1 week ban for this attack.
Yeah, well, 3-week ban, mate. Honestly, we'll start with Mason. I've done a video on Mason Mount earlier as to why I want him in the number 10 position, and I'm sure me and Dan will discuss why he has to play there. Now, Mount for me is criminally underrated, and even now, what he does, how intelligent he is, and I actually think out of him, Grealish, and Foden, he's more astute off the ball in positioning, what he does, how he can transition between midfield and attack, the pressing, than the other two. He's up there, and also. Because people say, well, he works hard off the ball, therefore he's not good technically. That's a lie because he had a beautiful passing in the Champions League final. Turns up on the big occasions. Turn against Atletico. Or Atletico, possibly Porto. So I think for me, he has to play in the 10. And I don't know about you, Dan, but I feel his position, how he plays for Chelsea, where he can come deep or play in that almost a 3-man midfield at times and then get in beyond and almost create a front 4 and overload. He's perfect for the 10 role in this side. That's
what I like about, Mount, Foden and Grealish is their versatility. The willingness to play anywhere. Neither hide. Neither go hiding. They always want the ball. They always want to take responsibility and impact games, and that's why this attacking trio might be deadly and might win us games. They're all match winners on the day, aren't they? Like you alluded to, Mount's pass. I know Zinchenko was a bit off it, but Mount's pass for Havertz in the Champions League final is world class. And I said to my mate the other day, it might be an unpopular opinion, I think Mount's arguably better than Grealish and Foden in terms of what he offers. I think he's very underrated. I'll get bites for that now, won't I? But
I know what you mean. I think if you package a player up overall, that you have to take into account what they do off the ball and positionally and how they affect things.
And Mount offers more. Yeah.
His maturity, by the way, and I don't know whether him and Declan obviously are best mates and they're very similar, but his maturity actually in those big games and what he does for sides like Chelsea, it's not easy to go and control. I'm not saying he controls game for Chelsea, but he makes things happen. And you can play him in an 8, in a 10, left-hand side, right-hand side. He will influence things. The only thing he won't do, for me, is getting beyond someone like a Harry Kane. That's the only thing he won't do. But other than that, he's superb.
But he'll pick them passes as well, won't he? It won't just be Kane's responsibility. He'll pick up the ball, take it by the scruff of the neck like he has done for Chelsea this season, which isn't an easy job. When Lampard went, Tuchel could... Because Tuchel didn't start him in his first game, did he? And there was all the reports saying Mount's not... Mount was... Player. Yeah, Mount's not a Tuchel player. He was Lampard's kind of pet, if you like. And it was true to an extent. But Lampard saw the ability in him when he was at Derby as well. Saw how good he was then. So for him to then put the trust in Mount shows how good a player he is. And Mount's mentality as well, like you said, is key. Like Foden as well and Grealish is they're all key. So he's an absolute no-brainer. He's probably one of the first names on the team sheet in terms of hard work, in terms of what he offers on the ball, his passing range, his dribbling, his ability to get out of tight situations, which will win you a game.
Half turn, massive thing. Playing against the low block and he's in that 10. You want him getting on the half turn, and he's honestly he's magnificent. He's such a good player. Anyone that is worth their salt that knows football knows he's a top quality player. And I've said it. I even thought he was Lampard's pet, but this season for me, the consistency that he's had, and you look at, I understand that obviously Abraham's been a little bit ostracised and Tomori's gone out on loan, but you actually look at Mount, how consistently he's played since Lampard was at Chelsea, and then now Tuchel's at Chelsea. It shows you he's a good player. There's no luck. You don't just turn up in the first team for Chelsea playing in a 10 role or in a left-hand side role just because you're a Chelsea boy. And that's what's been great to see. And I've been happy for him to... I hate Chelsea, but I've been happy for him to go and get a Champions League because he deserves it. He's been top quality, and he'll be unlucky not to get an award this season. He's been that good.
No, definitely. Yeah, he's like I said before, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. What he offers. It's just terrific. He's second to none, isn't
Still not as good as Pablo Fornals.
No, not as good as Pablo or Jared Bowen, but that's a topic for another time. Yeah, or Lingard. Ben Rama, he's better than Ben Rama, but no, I'm only joking. But
I'll defend him. You're right, man. You're 100% right. Let's talk about the other two. I'm going to start with Foden. Now, again, another super talented player. And again, when you've got a plethora of attacking talent like England do, you need to find a way for me, of getting him in the team. Now, the only other options that I can think of is Saka on the left-hand side, possibly, Rashford and Sterling. Now, if you play a 4-2-3-1, you do want natural 10s. Where Foden differs, he's happy to play really far wide and come in with the ball and make those carries. He's also willing to come a little bit deeper. I think you want to play him on that left-hand side because that's where he's been most successful for Manchester City. But the same thing that we mentioned about Mason Mount applies to Phil Foden. Turns up in the big games. And he was very unlucky not to get a goal against Chelsea, to be honest. Brilliant bit of defending from Rudiger. And I want to see him make those runs. And we talk about Kane dropping deep. You need players to go in beyond. He's the guy that can do it, 100%. And his finishing's not bad either.
No, he's not bad. He's only got room to improve on that. And he, you know, like you said, he adopts some really good positions this season. He's, you know, when they had David Silva and he used to get into like central positions when it was on the right, just behind Aguero. That's what Guardiola's taught Foden to do. So that is in his locker now. He knows where to get in the positions.
He scored, Dan, do you remember when he scored that goal against us at the London Stadium, the position that he picked up there? And Manchester City were struggling to break us down. And they brought him on in the second half. And he come in a little bit on the left, come in central, and I think he might have volleyed it past Fabianski.
I do know, yeah.
That's what I hope you get for England, because that's what unlocks teams. That's the problem. That's the additional run that you can't deal with, that I don't think Mount or Grealish will necessarily do, and Foden's happy to do.
He's the best ball carrier out of the three. Well, I don't know about Grealish. I'll take that back. Grealish is better, but he's very good for his age at what he does in terms of ball carrying. I had something on my mind. What was I going to say before?
Threw your curveball with the Manchester City game. Do you remember that was the one game we picked up a point against Man City for the first time in years.
That's it. You know what, as well, mate? He's deceptively quick. He really is quite quick with the ball and without the ball. And like you said, the only reason why I was debating to start Phil Foden is because Marcus Rashford can adopt that role as well, where he runs beyond Kane. Kane picks him out like a Kane-Son partnership. That's what I can envision with Marcus Rashford playing, but he's not been on the best form this season. So you go off form for me, not ability, like I've said to you before, and you play Phil Foden in there. And Phil Foden as well. This could be his tournament. He could be the man for this tournament. Like Wayne Rooney a few years ago when he was 18, he could have a similar impact because he's that good.
Have you seen that clip on social media of Rooney at the Euro 2004?
Yeah.
You know what? I was so young, I couldn't remember how good he was. And then I watched that and thought, that is a different level. And I do feel that you're right. Foden can have a really similar type of tournament. My only concern is he gets frustrated. And with all these attacking players, I think Mason Mount's
got a temper on him, yeah.
Well, Mason Mount's got the maturity to be patient in these types of games. But I look at players like Grealish and Foden, and I wonder whether if England aren't having too much of the ball, that they are going to come deep and they're not letting Kane come and pick it up. And it kind of frustrates me a little bit with Kane, and we'll talk about him, because I do think that at Spurs, he doesn't have that natural creative ability behind him. He has to be the creator. Whereas England, he does have that. Yeah. And I wonder whether the dynamic's a bit off. But for me, Phil Foden is possibly generational. And I think next season, he will kick on. And you see this season with the goals and assists that he's got, and we know how Pep rotates. He'll bag. He could bag 20 goals. Honestly, he genuinely he's that good with the runs that he makes.
He could do a double-double. And that's how you unlock Harry Kane as well. There's an argument that he could play Rashford or Sterling or Sancho and take one of these out. But for me, you need to play this trio to unlock Harry Kane and to get him scoring the most goals, because Harry Kane is a quality finisher, as we know. But he needs the output around him. At Spurs, sometimes he has to create it himself. Or
he's very good at it, but it's just sort of, no, Harry, go and be that number 9 that you were. I know he lacks the pace, but you just feel that like, the amount of creativity that we've got. There's very few teams out there. You know, we talk about Germany, you know, with a Kroos or a Kimmich or a really good technical players, but no one the way that we have, you know, 3 number 10s at that level. And one of those players is Jack Grealish, and his output creatively is unbelievable. I think that, isn't it the stat saying that he'd been out for, obviously, was it 12 weeks, 3 months? And his creativity is still one of the best in Europe, or one of the best in the Premier League. That is ridiculous for Aston Villa. Now, granted, he does have a lot of freedom, but to still be doing that at Aston Villa is outstanding. So explain to me why Grealish, and I've put him on the right-hand side, Dan, because I kind of feel like you've got to shoehorn him in somewhere. Why Grealish deserves his space in his first 11.
A number of reasons. love him as a footballer. I think he can be world class. I think he's that good. I think it's inevitable he'll leave Aston Villa one day, like Declan Rice with West Ham. Absolutely inevitable. It's just when. But I thought last night he was, obviously it's not an indication last night really for how the tournament will go, but he was superb. That run for that goal, just the way he shields the ball and runs with it is world class. The way he draws fouls in as well, uses his body is key as well. So that doesn't do it justice either. That doesn't do him justice of why he should be starting at all. There's a number of reasons. Set pieces as well. And like we said before, all three of these can turn out of tight spaces and create things, and they're match winners. But Grealish for me is one of their first names on that team sheet. Because I think I've said this with a lot of players, to be fair, in the starting lineup, but he can make it his own tournament. He can take responsibility, be England's number 7, and win games. You know, like he set up a few chances last night. He will help to get the best out of Harry Kane. He'll know where he is, and he's a top player.
He got to start. I mean, the thing is with Grealish, I think he's our best ball carrier. That second half where it was a little bit disjointed in the first half, and it was a bit frustrating to watch because we had all these attacking players and it wasn't really clicking. Maybe to do with Austria's pressure and we weren't used to it. But Grealish in that second half, even for the goal, you see it, the way that he sets it up, the way that even with the intelligence to go in beyond as well and get on the end of Jesse's pass, and obviously he missed it and Saka scores. But the point is he's dragging the ball and he can keep the ball. He's really comfortable. He wins fouls and set pieces. At this level, it could come down to a set piece. And England, to be fair to us, historically, we've been quite good for him, particularly in that last World Cup. Yeah. So you need it. For Grealish, for me, you want him in that final third. And I think last night he was a bit frustrated because he was having to come back and pick the ball. Get him in the final third. Let him run at players, because even though he's not quick, he's direct, and the way that he shifts the ball and can beat players and draw them out of position, you need it. But you also need runners. And that's the only thing, Dan. Is there a good enough dynamic between Grealish and Kane at times?
That's it. That's what you got to think.
They both want to play the same role. And I don't know whether that's going to confuse things. And we're going to end up playing a bit like we've got a false 9 because no one is going and being direct enough.
That's it. That's a good point, mate. You know, Grealish is happy to drop deep sometimes, but like, I completely agree with you that he's at his best when he's in that hole, when he's between them lines, defensive and midfield lines. He's quality. He can showcase his talent. But for me, I completely agree with you. Is that a headache? Is that a problem where maybe Rashford would be better in them situations? Because for me, Rashford, he's actually statistically this season he's been decent, but when I've watched him, I think he's been quite average. He is better and he thrives more when he runs in behind and he has someone like Grealish to feed him, rather than say in build-up play, because Kane's a lot better. But if we're chasing a game, the game's open, say against Scotland or something, I would bring either Rashford, Sterling or Sancho on to stretch their defence. And the really good options to have, because you've got Grealish who can either drop deep, Mount can drop deep. They can interchange, even Foden as well. So them selections to have are not bad at all, but that is a problem.
We say it week in, week out about West Ham, don't we? We've got players, you need to play different types of game plans against them. And I wonder whether when you're coming up against a lower block side, having those number 10s in there, it's going to be a nightmare, because those teams are going to have to come out and try and win the ball. And though they're all very talented, and I would love to see them on the pitch at the same time. It's just a problem of Kane being on that line, because he's so, even without the pace, Harry Kane is so good movement and his understanding and his finishing that you don't want him dropping deep. There was an instance last night where he's come to the edge of the box to pick it up and Trent's gone to whip a ball in and he's not there. And that's where the frustration is. But I agree with you. When you're playing against a side where it's a little bit more open or you've got to go in transition on them, your Sancho, Sterling, as poor as he's been this season in his finishing at times,
quick, isn't he?
He's quick. And Rashford. And I wonder whether we might see that, Dan. I wonder whether Southgate looks at Rashford maybe as a number 9 option in certain games. That would be interesting for me to see, because it can work. For me, he's frightening when he's got space in front of him. It's just when he doesn't. And he runs into a brick wall and it breaks down. That's my only worry.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right about Kane dropping deep as well, because that is an issue, But then again, if you've got an on-runner of Rashford, who's central, you can play them two up top together. That's another combination, by the way. Or if you've got Foden ahead of Kane, there's still options there. But, like you said last night, you want Kane to be in them central areas. You want him to be in a 6-yard box where, say that finish against Leicester, was it last game of the season? That finish for me is
class, mate.
Is world class. He's been blocked anyway. He thought it was a beagle, didn't he? But it's not. But
Time out.
But that is an issue. But we have got the versatility, and we have got one of the best attacks for me in the competition, bar France, to do real damage. But it's how Southgate utilises these players, how we can get the best out of them. KANE from last night, but Saka was our best player. I don't know. I know Mount and Foden weren't playing, but it was concerning last night how, what's the word? How we didn't like a lot of creativity, did we? And it's Austria,
you're echoing what I said to you, where I was thinking, what are we trying to play like? Who are we trying to be? You watch all of these teams in the Premier League, and West Ham, Man United, Chelsea, whoever. You know what they want to do. And I looked at England and I thought, are we a high press team? Do we sit behind the ball? Are we a possession base? What are we? And even with KANE, the worry for me is Southgate. And I don't want to dig him out going into the tournament. Like I said to you, I want to be behind him. I want to be positive. But it kind of felt like he sort of went, just do what you do for Tottenham, and then we'll kind of figure something out. No, you need to really say,
though, does it?
You need to say to KANE, either you get players that can get in beyond Harry Kane, that understand that role, or you allow you put KANE on the focal point of the striking line, and he's getting it on crosses or he's in the box where he's lethal. Either way, Kane's class anyway. We're lucky to have Harry Kane because he can play both roles. You've got to settle on one, because if you start confusing things and just say to players, do what you do for your clubs, it doesn't work. But that's the only worry for me, Dan. I worry about Harry Kane because he is class. You want to get the best out of him. Yeah,
but if it was me and you, we were Southgate, you'd say, stay in the 6-yard box, stay central, stay in the penalty area. Because if you've got the likes of Mount, Foden, Grealish, even Sterling, Sancho or Rashford to an extent, or even Saka, mate, we're forgetting him. They create space around Kane. And last night, I know it's, like we said before, it's not really an indication, but it is concerning because he was, at the edge of the penalty box. You don't want him to be there. He's the best. He's one of the best finishers in the world, with Lewandowski, Haaland, and Mbappe. To be fair, he probably is the best finisher in the world. And if you've got that asset, you want him to be in them danger areas, sniffing out chances and getting in the box and feeding off scraps, even sometimes, which he might have to do against these bigger teams. But last night, I was concerned with the fact that we didn't take the game to them that much. I know it wasn't our strongest 11, but it's Austria. And if you want to have a go at winning this competition, you need to take the games to teams like that. You need to control the play, dictate the play. And we didn't do it enough. So like you, I don't really know what Southgate's strongest method of playing is. Does he want to sit back? Does he want to take it to teams? Or does he want to sniff them out for 15 minutes when the game's already gone against France, etc.? So it's... I
haven't got a problem with how he wants to play, to be honest. I'd like to see him be more progressive. And I do think the argument with Trent, the worry was he's not going to put Trent because he doesn't feel he's defensively solid enough. I think a forward-thinking coach uses Henderson in a defensive midfield position to cover for him and allow him to get forward. But I don't see anything from England where I'm thinking, oh, you're allowing one to compensate for the other. He might, to be honest, he could have just said last night, just go out, have a run around. Because to be fair, he's played a load of players that aren't getting near the squad. Ollie Watkins and Ben Godfrey and Ben White. So maybe I'm being overly critical, but I just thought
it's a fair point.
Yeah. We're your senior players, your Harry Kane. You want it to really feel that he's going into a tournament, and he did in the World Cup where he was in the box and he sniffed chances out, and that's why he scored the amount of goals that he did. And we need him. We need it. We're very lucky. We're very lucky to have a player like that. France have got Mbappe and Germany got some attacking talent, but Harry Kane is one of the best finishers in world football. And that is why he's the only option to play up front. It doesn't matter what me and Dan say about where he'll play and the dynamic of it. It's actually thinking, how can we get the best out of him? Because as much as we talk about number 10s, if Kane doesn't turn up, Dan, and I think he'll try to turn up, but if he can't get the best out of him, we're going to struggle to score goals in this tournament. We're going to be relying on Foden and Greece to come up with a moment of magic.
Yeah, we're saying now that he's probably one of the world's best finishers. He's got that in his locker. But if you don't give him the service and unlock his capabilities, we're not going to go far in this tournament. He will dictate how far we go. He will be the competition's top scorer for me. He's that good. But
I think it'll be Benzema.
Maybe, yeah. He missed a few last night, didn't he? Yeah, I'm pleased for him, by the way, on a separate note to England, that he's back in the squad, because he's unreal. He's so underrated. And that front three, by the way, Griezmann, Mbappe, Benzema, even Dembele in there.
Behind.
Pogba,
Kante when he
Kante,
comes back. We'll do,
Tolisso.
by the way, me and Dan are doing a video next week. We'll talk about some of these big teams and some of their possible starting lineups because there are some real conundrums. And I think the way that the tournament's set up, I think England will face one of those big teams if we get through the group stage, which isn't easy, by the way. Czech Republic, Croatia, and Scotland. Trust me, it's not easy. Trust me, Thomas Souček bags against England. He will bag. If we can't defend if we can't defend like we did last night for those last 20, particularly from those aerial duels, he will thrive. He'll be all over it. So
he will. Yeah,
it's not easy.
He'll target John Stones as well. He'll be intelligent.
Why not? Exactly. He won't target Harry Maguire if he's fit. That's for sure. Dan, how are we feeling now? We've gone through the team. Actually, me sitting here talking to you, I actually feel a little bit more confident about the personnel. We've got some fantastic players, bar the centre backs possibly, but I think every team isn't perfect. I know we had our golden generation way back when. It's a big tournament for Gareth Southgate, isn't it? In terms of what he can get out of this team, because if he doesn't get anything out of this team, we are going to struggle. Oh, for goodness sake, man! Look, I'll put you in a timeout and you come back and say the same.
Mate. Just let him have his moment.
Oh, fine. Anyway, now seriously, I mean, if Southgate doesn't, what does Southgate need to achieve in this tournament for you to keep his job? Because I don't really rate him. I've got to be honest. I don't think he's really necessarily merited being an England manager. But for you, what's the minimum he needs to get out of this team?
Semi-finals for me. The more time goes on, like you said, the more time goes on, the more I don't rate him and I see the cracks and I see the weaknesses from his man management style. I think the reason why we got so far in that World Cup, yes, we created our own glory, but I think it was a very poor standard. I don't think there were many good teams in that competition, and we got lucky sometimes. Obviously, in penalties, we struggled to beat Colombia, for Christ's sake.
So proper dirty, weren't they, as well? I remember that game.
Horrible,
like a war, wasn't it?
Team. Yeah. But for me, I am concerned about the plan B. What will he do if there's a low block like last night? Teams annoying us, teams fouling us everywhere. Has he got that plan B strategy? Because Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if you want to throw him on a goal, yes, he's a goal scorer, but I'd rather someone like Ollie Watkins in there who offers something different, because DCL and Kane are two similar players. DCL isn't quick. Yes, he's got a leap on him, as you saw in that picture.
I didn't think he was great last night at all.
That's what I mean.
He wasn't doing what he needs to do, hold the ball. And every time there was, and that's where DCL will come on, where England are possibly chasing the game, need a goal, and we're putting set pieces, deliveries into the box. DCL will be another option because he's so good in the air. But
he's not a poacher, though, is he?
You say that he's kind of profited off of Ancelotti's teaching, hasn't he, of having one touch and finishing. And he was lightning for a lot, and he was getting in the right areas, but he's not technically a brilliant finisher. I think he's got good attributes overall, and that's why I never really dug out the decision to bring Ollie Watkins in, because I think Ollie Watkins does more off the ball, stretching the play, can play more versatile.
He was better last night as well. He was better than DCL.
I thought he was lively, exactly. Yeah. So I think that is a worry about someone like DCL, and you are right about the different types of plans that England need. Has Southgate got it in his locker to make the changes? Does he make it too late, and then all of a sudden we're bemoaning that we're out of tournament to a Germany? I think we really need, if anything, to go and beat a top team, even if we don't get to a final, because that's been a real bugbear of mine. We can't compete with these bigger teams, and I think England have got the talent to do it in terms of personnel. But in my lifetime, I haven't seen us go out and dominate
and express ourselves. No, that's it. Because we've got the capability, we've got the players to do it.
Yeah, but
it's if we've got the willingness to do it, the application. Because if we play someone like Scotland, which is going to be no rollover, by the way, you've seen them last night and their spirit.
All, mate. Yeah.
If we don't take the game to them and we're not fully on it, and all their players have a 9 out of 10, they'll beat us. And Czech Republic are no mugs either. Croatia, we know how good they are. They've got some quality players, Luka Modric being the main one. But this group isn't going to be easy to get out of at all. It's not going to be a rollover. And if you're not 100% on it every game and don't take the games to some of these teams like we should be against Scotland and Czech Republic and let them frustrate us, it could be difficult.
It's tough. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he proves it. But you've given him, for me, he's got every tool in the box other than centre-backs, to be honest. I think he's got pretty much everything that he needs. We tonight, we haven't even put Sancho in there. Sancho's got even now, a ridiculous number of goal contributions this season over 2 seasons consistently for Dortmund. And we haven't even mentioned him. Rashford, again, like you said, hasn't been brilliant on the eye test, but statistics say that he scored a goal.
Player, yeah.
And so we have got the options, probably more so than a couple of other aging teams. The only one that, for me, is the one I look at and think is France. Because France, again, they won the World Cup. They're an absolute superb team. They're probably unlucky not to win the Euro 2016 as well. So it will be an opportunity for them to get this off their back and go and win it. They're the only team that I really fear. But I fear that we can't compete against the bigger teams. Even the Spains, to be honest, Dan, they are so well
Spain as well
in how they want to play. I don't really know how we're supposed to play. So I don't know whether I'm being ignorant or not, but I haven't seen enough from them to go, this is how we're going to play. And listen, if you wanted to play boring football and sit behind the ball and soak it up and hit them on the counter, I've got no problem with it. But I think you'd have to be primed for that. The way that we've got the players and the players that we mentioned tonight, we should be on the front foot, high line, possession-based football, and trying to unlock teams, because that's what we've got. And 9 times out of 10, if you've got Grealish, Foden, and Mount, you can. But I am worried.
Exactly. It's how do you break down these organised teams? We got the personnel to do it, but we were almost scared last night. As soon as they went into that low block.
Yeah.
Good comment.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. Sorry, that's a bit disrespectful.
As soon as sorry, Dave. As soon as they got into that low block last night, we didn't know what to do. We didn't have a plan B, at all. And Austria aren't a team, unless they have Marko Arnautovic, he'll stretch you a bit, because that Kalajic is like 6'7", so they're gonna cross it in and have build-up play. So I'm gonna pose the same question to you, mate. How does Gareth Southgate keep his job this summer? Where do you want us to go?
I actually think he has to get to a final. Maybe I'm being harsh because of the route that he'd have to take, and he'd have to go and beat possibly 2 big teams in order to get there. And then, by the way, if he went and won a tournament after that, he deserve all the props in the world. But the talent that we've got shouldn't be underestimated, and that's where we've gone wrong in the past. We've had average sides possibly for the last 10 years. Now we were on a side that's coming into its own, young players. We spoke about the centre-backs earlier. You've got young players in there. I'm not sure whether Gomez will recover and be the same player that he was, but imagine Gomez comes through, Godfrey, Ben White, players like that. In a few years' time, they'll be mature and they'll be decent, and we won't be sitting here talking about the centre-backs.
Tomori as well,
Tomori, and we'll still have quality attacking players. And the only one that we might not have is Harry Kane, and then I'm sure that'll be another issue. But I think he has to get to Greenwood, haven't you? Well, I think we want to see progression, don't we? And unfortunately, Southgate can't really fob me off in terms of what I'm watching and how good we're playing. I'd love us to win 1-0 every single game and win it. But I think getting to a final with this group of players is what he should do. Or at least go in and beating one big team. If he beats a big team that we don't think we can beat, then I'll say, hang on, maybe...
Hats off,
Because the thing is that the turnaround to the next World Cup is so short that you're not going to go and sack him unless he's had an absolute shocker, to be honest. So if he goes and beats a big team, then I can go and look at the World Cup and say, hang on, last World Cup for some of these players, young players coming through. It's a great opportunity, but he's got to show me something that I haven't seen. And I think the minute he doesn't show that, or the minute he wavers, the whole nation will be on his back, because I don't believe people support him that much, and me included.
No, I think he's on thin ice with the England fans, to be honest. But that's what I want to see as well. In our lifetime, mate, we haven't really seen, apart from maybe the Germany game. Was it in 2010 when Lampard had that shot that went in, but it actually didn't, apparently, because it wasn't given. And what was it, 4-2 or something? But apart from that game, I can never really remember vividly an occasion where we took the game to a massive team and really given it our all and really, put a pointer out there, put a marker out there that we're serious to win this whole thing. So if we don't do this in this competition and beat a France, Germany, or equivalent to them big teams, then we're not going to win it, are we?
Exactly.
We need to take the games to these teams. We can't just sit back and think, they've got Mbappe and Benzema. We've got Foden, Grealish, Mount, Kane, Rashford, Sancho, Sterling, and Saka. So
we've got the players, man. We've got the players. It remains to be seen. Listen, Dan, we've only got, hang on, I can't believe it's Thursday today. This week's gone so quickly. So really, next week, it's the Euros. It's already begun. And then, listen, don't get me wrong. If anyone, you're a West Ham fan and you're watching this, I've heard all the transfer news. I'm not engaging because it actually...
No, not yet. I'm not entertaining it yet.
Let me enjoy the Euros, and then we can moan. And then I'll have a full moan, and me and Dan will get Dennis and Charles. We'll all moan about it, right? But until then, we are just going to try and soak it up. I think me and Dan are going to do, like we touched on earlier, just a kind of a big team preview for some of the other teams that England could be playing. And I think that's interesting. It sort of follows a little bit on what we've said to end this video about how we can go and try and beat these big teams, because they are fantastic. And again, I haven't seen in my lifetime England go and beat them. Now, we've also got Euro Prediction League, which all you watching, make sure you check out. It's a link in the description. So go get over there.
Check it out. Join us. Yep.
Join us. Yeah, we'll be putting stuff in the chat. We'll be engaging with you regularly. We'll try and tie it in as well, so you get all the new subscriptions, notifications when they come up for the content, so you won't miss a thing. It's a really good tool actually as well in terms of match facts and things that are going on. And me and Dan will be putting our lineups or our thoughts in there regularly. So it'd be great to get a lot of you over there. Make sure you get the app, sign up. It's free, and I think one of the prizes for a premium account. So you hang around, you get a bit of luck. We'll trial it, and then hopefully we'll bring it back for West Ham next season on our European tour, which will be having Europa League fixtures will be quite nice, Dan, to be honest.
No, exactly. No, it is a good app, mate. Like you said, just touching on that, it's you can predict scores, can't you? Win points for that, and also join our league, because the more of you on there, the better. We want to engage with you lot. We want to tailor content around your needs, what you want, and have your thoughts on, say, the England lineup and much more. So there's more to come. Watch this space.
Yeah, well, no, I'm easy. If you've got any ideas or videos that you want us to discuss, or players that you want us to discuss, then of course me and Dan will hop on, even if it's for 10, 15 minutes, just to even pre-record a video, because if we are busy people, well, Dan more so than I am at the minute. I'm going to enjoy my extended break until I'm absolutely manic by September time. But no, absolutely. Let us know on the chat, and it's a way just to get hold of us very, very easily, and then we'll work it through that. But thanks, Dan, for joining me tonight. We've covered the best England 11. Sure, we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. If you are watching this on the replay or are watching this now, please drop a like. We just reached 6K, 3K in one season. So thank you so much for the support. Obviously, you put a lot of time in it, and it's great to hear your views. I'm sure some of you have thrown me daggers for my praise of Mason Mount on my other video, but nonetheless, we're all friends here. Take care, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll catch you later.